Great value Pokemon is all the rage. Apple gets called out again, and widespread panic in the Microsoft offices. Here's your Tech Ketchup for the week of January 22nd. The most fun, great value Pokemon game to date, Palworld, which we've all just nicknamed Pokemon with Guns, released this past weekend and has surpassed 7 million copies sold. And that's just on Steam. It also has 2 million concurrent players, making it the #1 most played game on Steam at the moment, and the second most played of all time. As fun as it is, the real conversation is, did they get there just by copying others' homework? Allegations of the game being generated by AI have already been shut down. Former chief legal officer of Pokemon Company says, "This just looks like the usual rip-off nonsense that I would see thousands of times a year. I'm just surprised it got this far." Olden Media law attorney says, "They don't really look like Pokemon, with simpler designs being similar takes on regular animals and more complex ones not being exact copies. You don't get the impression that they're supposed to be Pokemon." There hasn't been any legal action taken, but there is no grounds to stand on, considering that games borrow from other games all the time, and no assets from Pokemon were actually in the game. With that, there is also inspiration from games like Breath of the Wild, Minecraft, Ark Survival, and Death Stranding. Which game lawyer Richard Hogg says, being able to compare doesn't mean infringement, and suggested Pokemon should take notes from Palworld for a future Pokemon game. The game CEO at Pocket Pair says he just wants to make games that as many people as possible can enjoy, and doesn't mind using popular gaming trends to do so. Palworld jumping up this far is a loud message that gamers have been itching for an innovative Pokemon game, as opposed to what's essentially been the same game in a different location. And after the technical mess that was Scarlet and Violet, it'll be interesting to see how the next Pokemon game rolls out in the future. Story 2. The VisionPro has its share of buzz going around, and despite what the general opinion appears to be, the pre-orders have exceeded supply. But whenever there's a new device, it relies a bit on applications and use cases that people actually want to keep the products alive. And this presents a problem for Apple at the moment. Major players like YouTube, Netflix, and Spotify let it be known that they will not be developing VisionOS versions of their applications, nor will they allow the iPad versions to be sold in the VisionOS store. The pushback is mostly thanks to Apple's store policy. Spotify said it best. They said that Apple has demonstrated that they will stop at nothing to protect the profits they exact on the backs of developers and consumers under their App Store monopoly. Apple collects about a 30% commission on App Store purchases, and devs aren't trying to build apps at their expense to see Apple, who's technically a competitor, collect so much of the profits. It's advertised that the Vision Pro will have 1 million plus apps available day one, but it appears they'll all be iPad apps. Unless devs opt out, the iPad versions of their apps will appear in the Vision Pro store. YouTube, Spotify, and Netflix will be opting out. Others are opting out simply because the headset relies on eye tracking and hand gestures, features that may not translate very well with some apps. If you want to try it for yourself, you can reserve time in the Apple Store starting February 2nd to demo the Vision Pro, although this story probably didn't provide much motivation to book a demo. Last story, chaos across the Microsoft offices as employees log into Slack and see all their channels are missing. Microsoft is cutting 1,900 gaming jobs, a lot being Activision Blizzard jobs, just 3 months after Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, which was the biggest acquisition that gaming has ever seen. And this is pretty typical of integrations of companies due to overlapping in roles and such. And according to a Bloomberg interview, there's still a lot of mystery across the company on who's being laid off. A lot of layoffs so far has been hitting the redundant departments such as marketing and other departments that basically already existed within Microsoft. This resulted in a survival game they were developing to be cancelled, and there still isn't much word on the fate of other Activision Blizzard games. Alongside the layoffs, the Blizzard president has stepped down. Microsoft plans to name a new Blizzard president next week. This is all pretty much happening as we speak, so as the story develops, we'll keep you updated, and we'll see you in the next one.